You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Thank you for being here with us on this the impending very rainy afternoon. We're just on the very leading edge of a system that's going to bring widespread rain across the entire Bay Area. That is a live look at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. Thanks for being here with us on the stream. We're going to keep this going through the remainder of the afternoon as some of the heavier bands of rain move across the bay. And we'll track that, give you an idea on how your Wednesday is going to go. And then there are 2 more storms after today that we have to talk about. If you've got to be on the road today, just know this is likely what your drive's going to look like. So we've had our cameras out all across the bay today, and this has been spotty hit and miss showers so far. What we've experienced so far, even in that view, are isolated showers that turn on and then you get a break. So it has not looked like that for the majority of today. But between about like 1 or 2 in the afternoon today, which is right about now, and about 7 o'clock tonight, we are going to get some of the more notable rain from this particular system. Look what's going on in the Sierra today. So the snow that's going to fall up here might be one of the best stories that this storm has to offer us, because this series of storms will deliver perhaps 4 feet, maybe 5 feet in total, to places like Donner Pass, Echo Summit, that's I-80 and Highway 50. And that means even higher snow totals at the higher elevations. And this is where, remember, this is where we store all our water. The snowpack in the Sierra is the biggest reservoir in the state. We really should all think about it that way. And it's below average right now. So this storm should do a good job for us over the next few days. Of course, it's going to make travel kind of difficult for anybody who wants to get up there. So we'll time that out for you and show you how this storm's going to look. First thing we'll do is get you oriented with what's happening right now. We'll take a look at the big picture view. This is the last hour of radar. So the image we were looking at where we saw it was a bit rainy out on the roads, that was all this stuff out here, like hit and miss showers, on again, off again. If you look off the coast, what we're seeing on here now is the leading edge of like the main band of rain. It's being driven in along on the cold front that's about to sweep across the bay. And if you look at that last frame right there, you see how within this last hour of radar, you pick up this line of heavier rain that's kind of organized, and it extends pretty well out off the coast. And if we can get that wide view where we look down the Pacific, now it becomes a little more apparent. Just watch this last frame. And as we get to 1 o'clock, you'll see it pretty much right there. So that is what is just about to work its way across the rest of the bay over the course of the next several hours. And that's when everybody gets into the much more noticeable widespread rain. So since we've kind of got our bearings on this system now, at least you can kind of see what's sitting right off the coast in terms of the cold front, let's get a little more specific on that. And let's try and put some forecast detail into this. So in order to do that, let's go back to the forecast monitor. That's the big picture view again. Here's that close-up view. There's that line we were just looking at here. But what shows up this way is something a little more important. Last frame, remember we were talking about tracking a line out over the ocean? See it? Last frame. Do it again. Bring us right to 1 o'clock. That is more impressive. That's the narrow cold front band of rain that's about to come through here. And the rainfall rates are going to pick up. You're really going to feel the intensity as that line marches its way across the rest of the bay. This is just for like a visual reference. You know, I've jokingly referred to these before as the worms, because that's kind of what they look like, a series of worms working their way through the radar visualization. That's where you can see the actual cold front. Let's put that into the futurecast, and we'll skip ahead now, and we're going to stop this right where it is. Take a look at the time. Here's 1 o'clock. There's your line. Very well organized. There are the worms showing up, deeper shades of red and orange. This is just now about to come across the greater population centers for the bay. This shouldn't be overwhelming. There's no flood watches for us. We're not concerned even in the North Bay, which is usually the trouble spot when it comes to flooding concerns. We don't have that concern today from this system. But what we do want to make sure you're aware of is for about the next 3 to 4 hours, as that line marches across the bay, it's going to be a much rainier drive if you've got to be somewhere. And that could potentially be enough rain that as that line moves across your part of the bay, and I'm about to animate this in a second, and I'll show you how it's going to progress over the next 3 or 4 hours. As that line gets to you, it could be enough rain that you're going to get short periods with intensities that could be enough to cause problems on the roadway. Ponding of water, low-lying intersections, reduced visibility as you're driving around, because that also comes along with some pretty nasty wind, maybe 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts. There is a wind advisory today for this. So let's take it in time. If we're looking at 1 o'clock, we'll advance it 1 hour. So here we are at 2 o'clock. And now we've progressed far enough inland. There's your line going right through the bay. Now it's raining everywhere else you see depictions on here, so you'll get rain throughout the afternoon. But one of my areas for at least somewhat highlighted concern to make sure you're aware to time out how the system's put together is to watch that. So by 2 o'clock, it's coming across the peninsula, East Bay Shore, going up in through Contra Costa County. So now we're getting into the inland East Bay. So really between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, city and the peninsula, at least through northern San Mateo County and Marin, this is your hour where you'll get that noticeable rain. By 2 o'clock, it's gone East Bay. By 3 o'clock, now it's getting to the Tri-Valley. As it does this, it weakens, so the rainfall intensity rates will go down a bit because the East Bay Hills and the hills of the peninsula and the Marin headlands will all absorb a good deal of the energy from this as it comes on shore, so the intensity rates will drop a bit. And the wind should also be a little less intense with this as well as it gets over here, but you're still going to have the combination of the two, as long as you're within that line. And by the 3 o'clock hour, we're seeing it move through the East Bay. Let's take it ahead another hour. So now it's weakened so much, you don't necessarily see it a whole lot, but you know it's there. And now you turn your attention back here, because this is all the infill. Scattered showers, which will continue going. And in this part of the system, you can get isolated hit and miss thunderstorms, which means we don't get a widespread line of rain where everybody gets it along that line at the same time. Now what you have in the afternoon are little isolated areas where the potential is there for a brief little downpour from a thunderstorm. Low odds on that, maybe like a 15% chance we see that this afternoon, but that is part of this system. And this is the time of year when we'd be a little more likely to have that. So you get into March, when these late winter storms come in and we're transitioning kind of to spring, there's a little more energy available for systems like this to produce those isolated thunderstorms. Not many of them, but just know as we go through the afternoon, you could see that. And then by the time we're getting towards the later hours of the commute today, here we are at like 6:45, you've got main bands of rain pushing off to the east in a break. So that break will give you some clearing skies, maybe even some breaks of blue. And as we get into 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock, you will still have blue sky. But once we get here to 8 o'clock, this time of year now, sun's already gone down. So here we are now past sunset. And this is where you really see those isolated showers, occasional thunderstorms, which will work their way across the bay. A few more numerous ones in the overnight hours. And here's the kicker of this system. We've now gone ahead to tomorrow morning. And what we watch for out here, that is the center of the system. And the reason why we would know that is because you're about to see a little bit of a spin on that. Watch everything spin around the center of the low. See it? It's very subtle, but it's there. That's where we've got to get through that before this first storm is done. And this is Thursday morning. So we are still very much within this system through Thursday morning. And that second phase where you can get isolated thunderstorms, well, we could see that this afternoon. It's in the center of that low where the odds go up a little more. So if it's 15% chance for an isolated thunderstorm this afternoon and early evening, it's maybe a 20% chance of isolated thunderstorms tomorrow morning. But without the heating of the afternoon, even though you're in the center of this thing tomorrow morning, it kind of takes away some of the energy for thunderstorms to develop. Let's get to the end. Right about here. That's Thursday afternoon at 4. There's plenty of blue sky, clearing skies. So that's the end of System 1. System 2 is waiting off the coast to get here on Saturday. Oh, I should say Friday into Saturday. And in between those, there's a lunar eclipse that's happening, by the way. So there's a lot of attention for people who are focused on, will I have the ability to see the lunar eclipse on Thursday night? So think about your window for that. Like really 10 o'clock at night through like 1 in the morning would be prime time viewing for that lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipses play out over several hours, although the peak's going to be right in the middle of that. Watch what shows up in that window of time. This is Thursday night. Let's stop it right there. 11:30, kind of like prime time lunar eclipse viewing. And we've got a nice shield of clouds overhead at this point. And we are close enough to this system now that the high resolution models are able to resolve the details with much more clarity and resolution. And so it looks like we're probably going to have a deck of clouds in the way for our show of the lunar eclipse because that Friday system has sped up a little bit, getting here a little earlier, so we're getting the leading edge clouds before it gets here. So that's the latest on the eclipse forecast. We'll have more on that over the next 24 hours. We'll get a little clearer, but probably not clearer in the sky, just clearer on the notion it's going to stay cloudy. And then the next system gets here. So that's Friday. Look at the time frame. This is your Friday morning commute. And for that time frame, we're looking at the widespread rain that moves over the bay once again and picks up a little bit in intensity as we get towards the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock hour. This system does not have as much rain as the one we're getting today. There's still going to be enough rain. It's going to impact the morning commute. And it may not have as well-defined a cold front either when it comes through. So we won't have that event where you get that very narrow rain band from the cold front. But you'll still get rain that gets the roads wet enough, and you could have some isolated brief downpours in this one, but the odds for that look a little lower for the Friday morning rainmaker than they do for today. Let's clear out storm number 2, because by the time we get to about 1 in the afternoon on Friday, we're done with that. Let's just look at rainfall totals here before I get to storm number 3, because there is another one coming in on Sunday, but it looks like that one's weakening. So here are the rainfall totals for the first system. That gets us ahead from right now through about Thursday at 5 o'clock. And that's how much in total we will have seen across the bay. So it's like half an inch, 3/4 of an inch of rain. This is why I said flooding's not a big concern from this system. We can easily handle that. We haven't really had a significant storm come through here in about a month or so. So the ground's definitely had time to kind of recondition to get into a position where it can absorb this easily. It'd be more the roadway issues between like 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Gutters that haven't cleared, runoff into low-lying intersections for those brief times today, right through the morning, through the evening commute between like now and like 7 o'clock, where you could run into some issues on the roadway. Next system shows up and puts down a little more rain. We just added on top of that Friday system. So we went from like 3/4 of an inch of rain to about 1.25 inches. So that's about a half an inch of rain for the Friday system. You get about 3/4 of an inch today and tomorrow. And then the Friday system puts down about another half inch. So that's a good way to gauge that the Friday system's not bringing as much rain. It won't last as long or be as intense. Both of them are going to put down snow in the Sierra. So going back to that imagery we were looking at a moment ago, here's the first systems. That's about 3 feet of snow. And snow level is fairly low here for the Sierra. We'll get snow level down to around 3,500 feet, maybe a little lower. And that is one of the better aspects about this storm, because you want to get snow down on those mid-elevation levels of the Sierra. It helps with the water storage, but it also means we're getting a little bit more of a blanket in the region that typically has a higher vulnerability when we get to fire season. So you like to see the snow get down this low. And I'll just leave you with the last image. I-80 and Highway 50, this is the 2 corridors of the Sierra that would matter most to anybody here in the Bay who's trying to get over them. It's going to be a rough drive. So particularly the remainder of today, throughout Friday, there will be windows, breaks in the storms where Caltrans will be able to clear this. But if you've got to get over the Sierra anytime, really between now and like Monday, stay on top of the forecast there for snow. All right, that's your quick look for now. We'll be back throughout the afternoon today. We'll be back here at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And then, of course, we're going to start our newscast with Paul Hagan at 5 in the evening. And we'll have you covered on this throughout tonight. Thanks for staying with us.